100. Yeah. God had his hand on me since before the womb. I didn't know what that meant until I read the Bible.
Amen.
I didn't know what that meant until I read the Bible. He had his hand on me since before the womb. You think I started in the womb? He had his hand on me since before the womb. Like, oh, this is going to do this. He's going to make this happen. He's going to touch this person. He's going to touch these people. He's going to...
Shalom, and welcome to the channel. We're excited that you're here. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the amazing history lesson. Whether you're new or you're already part of the family, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Let's enjoy this journey together.
I'm telling Babylon. I'm telling Babylon. I'm telling Babylon. You let everybody get a turn. When the angels come, I'ma scream, let her burn. You let everybody get a ride. Did you really think God was gonna let it slide? You let everybody get a turn. When the angels come, I'ma scream, let her burn. You let everybody get a ride. Did you really think God was gonna let it slide? Her name is Babylon. I call her Babs for short. She has a lot of lovers. She lets them pass her port. She has a love affair with every foreign nation. She has a favorite wine. Its name is fornication. She has a purple robe. She has a pearly necklace. And if you worship Caesar, she'll give you worldly blessings. She's insatiable. She cannot hide her passion. Last week, somebody said she rides a dragon. I know it's crazy, but the question is why she had to put a crown upon its 7 heads. And it's even deeper, I had to peep the madness. She made war with the saints that tried to keep commandments. And since she killed the righteous and won't let me be, when she burns, it won't be from an STD. Bodies everywhere, both man and beast. And on that day, the birds are gonna have a feast. You let everybody get a turn. When the angels come, I'ma scream, let her burn. You let everybody get a ride. Did you really think God was gonna let it slide? You let everybody get a turn. When the angels come, I'ma scream, let her burn. You let everybody get a ride. Did you really think God was gonna let it slide? Show me the finest girl. Babs is just as pretty. Her name is Babylon. The girl is such a mystery. Yeah, she's been that way since we were little kids. She nicknamed me Mark like I was 666. She said, you want my number? I said, you high as hell. She said, you need my number or you can't buy or sell. She said, take my number. I know that I can't make you, but I'm espoused to Christ and I'm staying faithful. Isaiah had a vision. He saw the elevation. Jesus preached the gospel. John had a revelation. Her lovers hated Babs, so they burned her up. What's upside down, the Lord could always turn it up. You let everybody get a turn. When the angels come, I'ma scream, let her burn. You let everybody get a ride. Did you really think God was gonna let it slide? You let everybody get a turn. When the angels come, I'ma scream, let her burn. You let everybody get a ride. Did you really think God was gonna let it slide? I'm telling Babylon. 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 I'm telling Babylon.
Abanawa, Shabashamayim, Kwadash, Hayah, Shemka, Yahweh, Malakwatha, Taba'a, Ratazaka, Hayah, Aisha, Ba'aratazar, Kawa, Hayah, Bashamayim, Lathananawa, Lacham, Kal, Yawam, Wasalachnawa, Khalbwathnawa, Kasalach nawa, Chaubwat yanawa, Wala'a, Tabia anawa, Manasaya one, Abal, Hawashai nawa, Mayan, Rai, Kaya, Laka, Hamalakwa, Wa'ala, Wa'atapa Arath, La'ai Walamyam, Aman.
Shalom, family. Shalom, shalom. All praise to the Most High. Glad y'all here. Those of you who could make it, all praise to the Most High, man. So I know everybody's normally used to seeing Sergeant Michael Allah on the Thursday class. We just did a switch due to scheduling issues and whatnot. So from now on, I'll be doing the Thursday class. And Sergeant Michael Allah from Colorado, he'll do his class on Wednesdays, which he did yesterday. All praise to the Most High. All right. So, topic of today's class is dealing with time, right, and the calendar, so on and so forth. So we're just gonna get straight into it, brothers and sisters. Where we at right now? The next high holy day coming up is Feast of First Fruits. All right, so that's what this class is about. This class is going to be broken down into maybe 2 or 3 classes, like a part 1, part 2, part 3, and it's going to deal with the high holy days and the origins and throughout the years and so on and so forth. All right, but this one is dealing with first fruits. So let me start. Bear with me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen and we can start. Con. All right. So first scripture, let's get in the book of Leviticus, chapter 23. And the book of Leviticus deals with the different high holy days, right, that we're commanded to keep. This is not something where, you have an option doing it. It's pretty much something that we are commanded to do, right? Give me 1 second. Okay, so we're at the book of Leviticus, chapter 23, and I'm going to start at verse 10. It says, "Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest." 1 second. God, Slakia. It's always something, right? Leviticus chapter 23, verse 10. I'm going to start over. "Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, when ye be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, then ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest, and he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord, and be accepted for you. On the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it." Now, dealing with the calendar, brothers and sisters, this is where the issue comes in, for different congregations. Some brothers or some congregations, they debate on this part right here where it says, on the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest shall waive it. The question becomes, when is the Sabbath? We know when the Sabbath is, but you have to understand that this is coming right after what high holy day? Passover, right? When you start at verse 6, it tells you that on the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So we're going into the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And as it says, verse 7, in the first day you shall have an holy convocation, and you shall do no servile work therein. So the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, it is a Sabbath, right? So some people, they take that as to say on the morrow after the Sabbath, when you go back to Leviticus 23 and 11, dealing with first fruits and when to start counting, some people will say, okay, the morrow of the Sabbath, which is the morrow after the first day of unleavened bread. Now, if your congregation observes that, I'm not telling you that's wrong, right? Because other congregations, they observe the counting on the morrow of the Sabbath, meaning the weekly Sabbath. This could be a source of contention for different Israelite groups. But what I'm here to let you know is that if you're keeping a calendar and you're keeping these high holy days, you know what I mean? The Most High will honor it, right? We're not here to cause contention and strife. You see, the brothers and sisters agree on something or they don't. Everybody got to go the way that the Spirit is showing them, right? The Lord will show you what it is you need to know. And if you don't see it, it's okay. Just continue to pray and fast, and the Lord will eventually show it to you if it's meant for you to see it. But because a brother starts counting one day and gets a different date, that doesn't mean there should be any source of contention. You know, it's still your brother. We have brothers who observe different calendars. Still my brother, still my sister. It's just that, you know, their understanding and what the Spirit is showing them might be different. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to bring that out. So I'm going to read Leviticus 23, start at 11 again. And he shall wave the sheaf before the Lord, which is the priest, right? And to be accepted for you on the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. And we're going to touch on Sabbath, what it means, because Sabbath, we know it means rest. But when you look at it here, right? When you look at the word Sabbath, and we know it means rest, Strong's 87676, and you do the different understandings of Sabbath. You have the regular 7-day Sabbath. You have the Day of Atonement Sabbath. You have the Sabbath year, week, or produce in the Sabbath year. So Sabbath has many applications to it. You just have to get the right context in what it's talking about, right? So Sabbath we know Sabbath have different meanings, but the underlying meaning is rest, right? So just wanted to bring that out also. So let's go. Verse 12, and ye shall offer that day when ye wave the sheaf and he lamb without blemish of the first year for a burnt offering unto the Lord. And the meat offering thereof shall be 2/10 deals of fine flour mingled with oil, an offering made by fire unto the Lord for a sweet savor. And the drink offering thereof shall be of wine, the fourth part of an hin. These are things that was required of us when we're keeping these high holy days. Each high holy day had a certain sacrifice, at a certain whether it be burnt offering or meat offering. Each holy day was associated with a certain type of offering, and this is getting into for first fruits. Do understand, brothers, and if there's any sisters watching, meat offering doesn't mean meat like how we know meat, meaning that you go to the store, you go get a pound of beef, you go get some lamb chops. We nowadays consider that meat. Meat just means good. And how do we know what meat offering is. It tells you. Let's read verse 13 again. And the meat offering thereof shall be 2/10 deals of fine flour mingled with oil, an offering made by fire unto the Lord for a sweet savor. That's a meat offering. It doesn't say anything about flesh. We need to not confuse meat offering with what is known as a burnt offering. A burnt offering is when it's dealing with flesh, as we're going to read, right? So just wanted to clarify that also. Verse 13, and the drink offering shall be of wine, the fourth part of an hin. And ye shall eat neither bread nor parched corn nor green ears until the selfsame day which ye have brought an offering unto your power. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations in all your dwellings. Right? So when you read this, you understand that until we give that sacrifice, we weren't supposed to eat no parched corn or green ears or things of that nature until the self-same day which you bring your offering. Now, how does that apply to us in these days? Well, it applies to us in this context, right? Do you own a farm or a land to give certain offerings? Right? To give the first fruits of the land? Because originally that's what first fruits was about. First fruits was about giving the first fruits of your crops, whether it be barley, whether it be wheat, whether it be any type of cereal, right? When I say cereal, I'm not talking breakfast cereal. I'm talking about cereal meaning different types of agriculture, right? Especially that was local to Jerusalem, to Israel, so to speak, right? So that's what we were supposed to give. We are in captivity right now, so a lot of us don't own our land. I don't know about you, but I don't own any land. I wish I did, but I don't. So will the Lord not accept whatever offering I made because I don't have land to give first fruit, to give the fruits of the land? No, the Lord still accepts us. What we're doing is just pursuant to the book of Judges 5 and 11, I believe. We're just rehearsing the righteous acts. So I don't want brothers to get too caught up with that. What we are here to get an understanding of is the counting to get the first fruits as well as the calendar, right? So from there, let's go to the book of Deuteronomy. Let's get the book of Deuteronomy 16, and we're going to start at verse 9, right? Okay. This is the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 16, verse 9. 7 weeks shalt thou number unto thee. Begin, Slakia. 7 weeks shalt thou number unto thee. Begin to number the 7 weeks from such time as thou beginnest to put the sickle to the corn. So this is key right here. You're supposed to start counting from such time as thou puttest the sickle to the corn. Now again, in biblical times, right, Passover would align with the harvest around the time that your corn starts to bud, around the time you're about to reap the harvest, so to speak. You see why it's important for us to stay in tune with these high holy days in their rightful season, because you can't have Passover in the wintertime. That's just not going to work. It's going to throw your calendar off. You can't start counting 7 weeks, especially if you don't have the right date for Passover. Now, again, I'm going back to what I said earlier. I'm not here to judge anyone in the matter of their calendar, any congregation or anything of that nature, right? We're just using things in context and try to follow using wisdom of the high holy days in the appropriate season, right? That's all we're doing. So it says, 7 weeks shalt thou number unto thee. Begin to number the 7 weeks from such time as thou beginnest to put the sickle to the corn. Verse 10. And thou shalt keep the feast of weeks unto the Lord thy God with a tribute of free will offering of thine hand. That's very important because us being in captivity, that's the only type of offering we can offer now. Free will offering of thine hand. Right? Again, the Lord knew we would be in captivity, and he knows that a lot of us, we don't have animals, so to speak. We don't have a farm. We don't have land to produce the yield. We don't have a priesthood. Priesthood is scattered. We have Levites, but we don't have a priesthood. We don't have a temple. So what we give in commemoration, because we just read in Leviticus 23 that this is a statute forever, I believe verse 22, we should keep this. So what we're doing, just like Passover, this is a statute that should be kept forever. So what we're doing is doing this in memorial. We're rehearsing the righteous acts and doing this in memorial. So when Yahushua put us back in our land, and the temple is here on earth with us, right? Then we could do things the right way in decency and in order. But for now, what we're doing is just rehearsing and giving our free will offering of thine hand, meaning of the work. So if you're in a congregation, you give the first fruits of whatever it is you do, right? Whatever type of offering you have, which thou shalt give unto the Lord thy power, according as the Lord thy God hath blessed thee. Right? Verse 11, and thou shalt rejoice before the Lord thy God, thou and thy son, and thy daughter, and thy manservant, and thy maidservant, and the Levite that is within thy gates, and the stranger, and the fatherless, and the widow that are among you, in the place which the Lord thy God hath chosen to place his name there. And we know that that's Jerusalem, right? Just understand, first fruit should be a joyous time. That's what it's saying in verse 11, thou shalt rejoice before the Lord thy God, right? Because remember, first fruits was synonymous with Passover. It's the Feast of Weeks that come after Passover. And we're reminded that we were slaves in Egypt and how the Lord brought us out. It tells you that in verse 12, Deuteronomy 16 and 12. And thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in Egypt, and thou shalt observe and do these statutes. See, the whole key is this: remember. That's the whole key. Don't get caught up if you don't have the specifics of what is required of you for first fruits, right? Don't get caught up in that. The whole purpose is to remember, call to remembrance, rehearsing the righteous acts to remember of what it is we're doing. That's all it is. Because remember, the letter of the law killeth, brothers and sisters, right? What do I mean by that? Well, that's simple. The letter of the law says when you're keeping Passover, you're not supposed to break the animal's bones. You're supposed to, roast the Passover with its entrails and pertinence thereof. Some congregations do it. God bless you if you could roast the lamb in a spit over fire. Okay, that's a beautiful thing because you are keeping it according to law, right? So what about the other congregations who don't have that and they get their lamb cut up? Will the Lord reject their sacrifice, even though they still gather in the spirit of the Most High in Christ? They still gather and they honor the Lord by starting the feast of unleavened bread, by purging out leaven out of their homes as best as they can. Yeah, it's not up to us to judge according to how, we have certain feast days, so on and so forth. As long as, like the scripture says, Deuteronomy 16 and 12, thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in Egypt. Yeah, we were slaves, right? And thou shalt observe and do these statutes the best way that you can, brothers and sisters, right? Because we don't want to get caught up into doctrines, and then next thing you know, we're accusing one another. That's going into being a Pharisee and Sadducees and so on and so forth. And, we're not going to go there, right? So what is the count? Well, how we count, pursuant to Deuteronomy 16 and 9, right? Let me go to our calendar. All right, y'all should be seeing our calendar, the calendar, not mine, but the Lines of Israel calendar. All right, all praises to the Most High. We're observing first fruits on the 24th, brothers and sisters. That's when we're observing first fruits, right? And we're gonna scroll back to when we had Passover. Passover was at April 1st and sundown, going into the Feast of Unleavened Bread, right? Let's go back to the scriptures. Let's go back to the book of let's do Numbers 28:26, right? No, Slakia. Let's go back to Leviticus 23. Start at 10. It says, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When ye come into the land which I give you, you shall reap the harvest thereof, and ye shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest. And ye shall wave the sheaf before the Lord to be accepted for you. On the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. Remember what I said? The contention with a lot of calendars and congregations is the morrow after the Sabbath. So how we interpret this is the morrow after the weekly Sabbath, right? Please understand, April 1st is a Sabbath. Why is it a Sabbath? It's the Feast of Unleavened Bread. We read that. No servile work shall be done. So the Feast of Unleavened Bread, when you read up, start at verse 6. On the 15th day of the same month is the Feast of Unleavened Bread unto the Lord. 7 days ye must eat unleavened bread. Verse 7. In the first day ye shall have a holy convocation. You shall do no servile work. So the first day is a Sabbath, right? That's how a lot of congregations start counting after this. But how we observe it is from the 7-day Sabbath, right? That's when we start counting. Leviticus 23 and 10. Speak unto the children of Israel and say unto them, when you come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof, and then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits of the harvest unto the priest. Verse 11. He shall wave the sheaf before the Lord to be accepted for you. On the morrow after the Sabbath, the priest shall wave it. Verse 12. And ye shall offer that day when ye wave the sheaf a lamb without blemish of the first year of the burnt offering unto the Lord. Right? This is dealing with burnt offerings and drink offerings and meat offerings. What I want is verse 15. And ye shall count unto you, Leviticus 23:15. And ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, from the day that ye brought the sheaf of the weave offering. 7 Sabbaths shall be complete. So it says, you shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath. So we interpret that as the weekly Sabbath. And the morrow after the Sabbath is the first day. It's the first day of the week. We're still in the Feast of Unleavened Bread, but it's the morrow after the Sabbath, right? That's when we start counting. Verse 15. Verse 16. Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall ye number 50 days, and ye shall offer a new meat offering unto the Lord. So it says, verse 15 again, and ye shall count unto you from the morrow after the Sabbath, which is this day. This is the Sabbath, the weekly Sabbath, sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. So we start counting sundown Saturday to sundown Sunday. This is the morrow after the Sabbath, right? The 5th. Even unto the morrow after the 7th Sabbath shall ye number 50 days. So this is the first Sabbath, and the morrow start counting. 1 Sabbath, that's the 11th. 2 Sabbaths, that's the 18th. 3 Sabbaths, that's the 25th. 4 Sabbaths, that's the 2nd. Let me toggle. So we have 4 Sabbaths. 5th Sabbath is the 9th. 6 Sabbaths, that's the 16th. 7 Sabbaths is the 23rd. And the And the morrow after, which is sundown, is the feast of first fruits. And we observe it in the daytime. So that's how we got the 24th. The 23rd is the seventh Sabbath, and the morrow after it is the feast of first fruits. That's how we got the 24th as the feast of first fruits, right? Now, is our calculation perfect and right? Right? Again, like I said, what we're doing is rehearsing the righteous acts. Most congregations in Israel observe the feast of first fruits on the 24th. I'm not going to call names, but if you look at most calendars, most brothers and congregations, they observe on the 24th. You have some bigger congregations who they don't have it on the 24th. We're not going to go into that as far as why they're off, because some brothers, they do the lunar Sabbath. Some brothers, they observe the full moon as the new moon. Again, if the Spirit is showing you that, so be it. Spirit is not showing us that. We're not working on that calendar. This is the calendar we're working on, and a lot of other congregations come up with the same day. However, be aware. I just want you to be aware, brothers, that according to the scriptures, right, what we read, some people, even back then, they started counting the feast of first fruits after the feast of unleavened bread. They consider this to be the Sabbath, and then after it, they start counting. You have two major points of contention. You have the Pharisees and the Sadducees. A lot of people don't go into that, but some of the Pharisees, they started counting after the feast of unleavened bread. The Sadducees start counting after the Sabbath. So this contention was going on even back then, right? We could look into that. We could show you that. I'm pretty sure y'all familiar with this person by the name of Josephus, right? The historian, Flavius Josephus. Obviously, this is not him. Don't get caught up with the picture. This is not him, right? But Josephus was a historian, and he recorded a lot of the history of the Jews in antiquity, and he recorded a lot of things, right? So let's get everybody knows who he is, but let's just get a quick background, right? Flavius Josephus, born Yosef ben Mattathiah. He was around from around 37 AD to 100 AD, right? Was a Roman Jewish historian and military leader, best known for the writing The Jewish War. He was born in Jerusalem, then part of the Roman province of Judea, to a father of priestly descent and a mother who claimed Hasmonean royalty. Hasmoneans, that's a whole nother class we got to get into, right? He initially fought against the Roman Empire during the First Jewish-Roman War as general of the Jewish forces in Galilee, until surrendering in 67 AD to the Roman army led by Vespasian after the 6-week siege of Yodfat. Josephus claimed the Jewish messianic prophecies that initiated the First Jewish-Roman War made the reference to Vespasian becoming the Roman emperor. Yeah, because at the time, when Yahushua told us, right, that Matthew 24, that we should flee from Jerusalem, and it's going to be a siege. This is what Josephus and them were talking about. That's what they believe, and we believe it also, because that was the beginning of us going into this long ass captivity. All right. So Josephus, when you get a chance, he wrote the book dealing with. He wrote many books, but the books dealing with the antiquities. That's what you need to look into. So now, the book that we're gonna examine is called Antiquities of the Jews, Book 3. All right. Antiquities of the Jews, Book 3. And what we want is chapter 10, chapter 10. All right. And these images are off as hell because you would think it's straight Jewish people back then, but it's not. It's just over the time that these his books have been reprinted and stuff. You know, Esau add pictures and stuff into it. Right. We're at chapter 7. What I want is in chapter 10. All right, chapter 10 says, concerning the festivals and how each day of such festival is to be observed, right? Okay, let me start at chapter 1. All right, what I want is a little bit down here, but we'll just read, right? It says, the law requires that out of the public expenses, a lamb of the first year be killed every day at the beginning and at the ending of the day. But on the seventh day, which is called the Sabbath, they kill two and sacrifice them in the same manner. Now he's going into the weekly Sabbaths, and then he's going to go into other high holy days, right? But on the new moon, they both perform the daily sacrifices and slay 2 bulls with 7 lambs of the first year and a kid of the goat also for the expiation of sins. That is if they have sinned through ignorance, right? So they were doing this for atonement of their transgressions, right? We're assuming this is before Yahweh Shai came, right? But on the 7th month, which the Macedonians call Hyperberetus, they make an addition to those already mentioned and sacrifice a bull, a ram, 7 lambs, and a kid of the goat of sins. So, what I want, we got to go down. Let's go down to paragraph 4. But on the 15th day, right? But on the 15th day of the same month, when the season of the year is changing for winter, the law enjoins us to pitch tabernacles. Okay, so he's going into tabernacles. All right, jump down to verse 5. But in the month of Xanthicus, which is by us called Nisan, that's not, these names, brothers and sisters, we already know. These are pagan names that throughout our captivities we picked up. We never used to name our months or our days. It was the first day, second day, seventh. Only the day we named was the Sabbath, and that just means rest. Same thing with the months, first month, second month. When you go back and you study Nisan and all of that stuff, Xanthid, because we got that from Greek and Roman captivity. Just a quick, side note. And it's the beginning of our year, right? It's talking about the month Abib, which means to spring forth. On the 14th day of the lunar month, when the sun is in Aries, for on this month it was that we delivered from bondage under the Egyptians. Now he's going into a little bit of astrology and stuff like that. See what I'm saying? So a lot of stuff that Josephus was writing down or into, we weren't into that. But he's still an eyewitness historian, but you got to take it with a grain of salt, right? It says, for on this month it was that we were delivered from bondage under the Egyptians. It's like, I know it's annoying, right? The law ordained that we should every year slay that sacrifice, which I before told you we slay when we came out of Egypt, and which is called the Passover. And so we do celebrate this Passover in companies and leave nothing of what we sacrifice till the day following. Right. Observing the how the Passover, the Seder meal is supposed to be kept. Right. This is what we want. The Feast of Unleavened Bread succeeds that of the Passover and falls on the 15th day of the month and continues 7 days, wherein they feed an unleavened bread on every one of which days 2 bulls are killed and 1 ram and 7 lambs. Now these lambs are entirely burnt, besides the kid of the goats, which is added to the rest for sins. So it is intended for the feast for the priests on every one of those days. But on the second day of unleavened bread, which is the 16th day of the month, they first partake of the fruits of the earth, for before that they do not touch them. And while they suppose it proper to honor God, from which they obtain this plentiful provision, in the first place they offer the first fruits of their barley, and in that manner following. So remember what I was saying to you earlier. Let's go back to the calendar. That some interpret what Leviticus 23, verses 10 to 22, is talking about as the morrow after the Sabbath. They would observe the Feast of Unleavened Bread as the Sabbath. It is a Sabbath. It is a Sabbath, right? And they would start their first fruits on the 16th day. Let me read that again. This is from Josephus, the book of Antiquities, book 3, and I'm in chapter 10, and I'm in paragraph 5, right? Now, a little bit down, I'm going to start right here. A second. Okay, Salaki, I'm going to start right here, right? Now, these lambs were entirely burnt besides the kid of the goats, which is added to all the rest for sins. For it is intended as the feast for the priests on every one of those days. But on the second day of unleavened bread, which is the 16th day of the month, they first partake of the fruits of the earth. For before that day, they do not touch them. Right? I'm right here. And while they suppose it proper to honor the Most High, from whom they obtain this plentiful provision, in the first place, they offer the first fruits of their barley, and that in the manner following. They take a handful of the ears and dry them, then beat them small and purge the barley from the bran. Then they bring the 10th deal of the oil to the altar to the Most High, and cast in one handful of it upon the fire. They leave the rest of the use of the priests. And after this, it is that they may publicly or privately reap their harvest. They also, at the participation of the first fruits of the earth, sacrifice a lamb as a burnt offering to the Most High. So just understand, some Israelites, they were observing first fruits right after Passover, right after, soon on the 16th day, which is the second day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, right? There are other Israelites who were observing first fruits. They started keeping it, they started counting after the first Sabbath, which is the weekly Sabbath. Now, why am I bringing this out, brothers and sisters? I'm bringing this out to show you that even at the time back then, Josephus was around, let me see, around 67 AD. That was right before the fall of Jerusalem in 70 AD. Back then, remember, we were separated based on different practices, right? You had the Pharisees who was doing one thing and the Sadducees was doing something else. So don't think now in 2026, because some brothers observe first fruits, right, on May 2nd, May 24th, Salakia, like we're observing it, and some people might observe it on another day. Some brothers might observe it on the 17th. Don't think that's anything different from what was going on back then. You understand? It's all about, like we read in Deuteronomy, our free will and our offering. Deuteronomy 16, I believe. Our free will and our offering. That's what it's about. And to remember how the Lord brought us up out of Egypt. That's what it's really about. Let's not be splitting hairs and be beefing with one another. You understand what I'm saying? As far as the breakdown and certain things of that nature. So I just wanted to bring that out, brothers and sisters. Give me 1 second. Salakia, Salakia. All right, so I'm back. Salakia about that, brothers and sisters. Yeah, so just wanted to let me see. Boom. All right, let me just see, make sure. Let me see, read a couple of comments, make sure with me. Um, Shalom. Elder Karab said that explains the crucifixion concerning them keeping the Pesach on the second day after they slew Yahushua. Right, even back then there was, there was differences, right? Hey, can y'all hear me? Put one in the chat if my volume is okay. I don't want to be running my mouth in. You know what I'm saying? The volume is not good. Put a one in the chat if I can be heard. Okay, Khan. All right, so let's get back to it. All right. So we was just talking about Josephus. Josephus was around 67 A.D. Right, and he wrote his book. He wrote many books, and this is the one of the books we're looking into. It's called Antiquities of the Jews. I do believe it's on our website, Lines of Israel. You could go to our website, right, and you go under books, and you can search for it. I'm not going to do it now, but I do believe we have it there, right? So, Antiquities of the Jews, Book 3. If you want to write it down, chapter 10. And from chapter 10, I was in the 5th paragraph, I believe, right? But before we do that, all right, let me get back to it. Chapter 10, I do believe I was in paragraph 5, right? And it talks about how they were keeping the laws, right? Now, here's check this out. Here's a key, right? When did Yahushua pass? When did Yahushua die for our transgressions? They said around 33, 34 AD, right? So even though Yahushua died for our transgressions, our people were still sacrificing animals for atonement. You see what I'm saying? Not everybody accepted that. So you got to take that with a grain of salt, brothers and sisters, right? So back then we had the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and they had differences of opinion. Some Sadducees, I believe they don't believe in resurrection. The Pharisees, they did. The Pharisees started counting for first fruits differently. The Sadducees see things differently. The point is, even in the time of Christ, there was differences and contention and different understanding of the scriptures. So don't think because in 2026 we got AI and we got this and we so puffed up with wisdom and knowledge, we know, nah. It's still gonna be contention till Yahushua come back, right? So now we already understand that we're counting 49 days, and on the 50th day, that's when we have the Feast of Weeks, right? So let's get to the scripture that we all know. Let's go to the book of Acts, right? Book of Acts chapter 2, start at verse 1. And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, and we know Penta is Latin for 50, right? So it's still going into the 49 and the morrow after, which is one more day, 50. And when the day of Pentecost was fully come, they were all with one accord in one place. And suddenly there came a sound from heaven as of a rushing mighty wind, and it filled all the house where they were sitting. And there appeared unto them cloven tongues, like as of fire, and it sat upon each of them. This is the Spirit of the Most High resting on each of them, right? And they were all filled with the Holy Ghost, right? And began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. The other tongues is tongues that other people did not understand, meaning that when they gathered for Pentecost, people from different parts of the earth came. And it tells you that. This is not no mysterious breakdown. It tells you that. Christians get into the foolishness when they talk about utterance and blah, blah, blah. I was going to throw a video in there, but I'm like, nah, we already know this. We see the foolishness. Christians do it. They start doing that habalabalusha foolishness, right? So this is the really, it's really the feast of first fruits. That's when the Spirit came down on them, right? Verse 5. And they were dwelling at Jerusalem, Jews, devout men, out of every nation under heaven. Now this was the noise abroad. The multitude came together and were confounded, because that every man heard them speak in his own language. They were all amazed and marveled, saying one to another, Behold, are not all these which speak Galilean? Or, and Slakia, and how hear we every man in his own tongue wherein we were born? Parthians, Medes, Elamites, and the dwellers, Slakia, of Mesopotamia and Judea and Cappadocia and Pontus and Asia. Now we could go over this when we have Feast of First Fruits. My point being is that the Spirit descended on the Feast of First Fruits around that time, 50, which goes back to what we were doing our calculations, which is like the Bible tells us, 49, 7 Sabbaths, 7 sevens is 49, and the morrow after, right? So the point being, on the calendar, we Lions of Israel, we're observing first fruits on the 24th, right? This is the first day of the week, the morrow after the Sabbath, right? So that's the point. Another congregation is keeping first fruits on another day, don't get into contention with them. Because the contention has been around, right? They still are brothers in Christ. They just see things differently. They have a different breakdown, right? We shouldn't be wasting time debating one another with certain things. Now, the scriptures does say debate that cause, meaning if you stand on one thing, then you bring forth scriptures to show that. But there's a way on how you do it, where you're not, trying to cause contention, right? All right, so that's the spiritual first fruits. That's the physical first fruits. And again, we are in captivity. We don't have no land. Some of us do, but not all of us. A handful of us do. So a handful of us is not the entire nation. The Most High throw everybody into captivity, lock, stock, and barrel, as they said, right? So if we're in captivity, would the Lord not hear our prayer? Of course he will, right? So now, remember when we read in Salaki, let me go back real quick. Deuteronomy 16, right? Deuteronomy 16 and I believe 10, where it says, and thou shalt keep the feast of weeks. Right. Deuteronomy 16 and 10, and thou shalt keep the feast of weeks unto the Lord thy God with a tribute of a free will offering of thine hand. Right. Whatever you give of your increase, you give it to the Lord. Some of us have more of an increase than others. Right. But you're still supposed to give. So the first fruits now is spiritually, because we're in captivity. You could give physically if you have it in your congregation. That's between you and the Most High. Right. But we can't exact laws to say, like the church does, you got to give up 10% of what you got. Nah. We're not doing that. That goes into tithing. That's something totally different. Right. And we all know about that. Right. So let's get to the book of Galatians chapter 5. Everybody should know the scripture, right? Galatians chapter 5, verse 22, it says, but the fruit of the Spirit, and we understand that fruit mean works, right? So the works of your spirit should be such. Galatians 5:22, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance, such as there is no law. And they that are Christ have crucified the flesh with the afflictions of lust. So your first fruits that you should be given spiritually is this right here, man. It's supposed to be peaceful with brothers, man. Have keeping the faith, meekness, temperance. Don't be quick to get into an argument with your brother over things that is not going to give you salvation, right? Against such there is no law. Those are fruits of the Spirit. Now, as I brought out before, the fruit just mean the works, right? When you read Matthew 7, it tells you that also. Matthew 7, I'm going to start at 18. It says, uh, no, let's start at verse 15. A tree and its fruit, right? Yeah. Matthew 7, verse 15. It says, beware of false prophets which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. How you know somebody? By the fruits. You know, tree bear fruits by your action. The fruits of your action. That's how you know them. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistle? No. That's a rhetorical question, right? So what they do is what they like to do. And you know them by their fruits, because a man ain't gonna do nothing he don't like to do, right? Do men gather grapes of thorns? Really? No. Or figs of thistles? Nah. Right? So how you know people is by their works. That's the fruits. Verse 17. Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit. So you do good works, you're gonna get good fruits of your works. But a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit. So you're doing corruption, everything is gonna that you bring forth is gonna be evil, right? A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. So if you was born wicked from day one, and nothing you could do about it. The scriptures tell you the wicked go astray from they were born. So they can't do good things. They can't have good fruit. They can imitate, but they can't have. Right? Verse 18. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. So again, it's based on your works. Verse 19. Every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is hewn down. Hewn means to cut, right? So it said, every tree that bringeth not forth good fruit is going to be hewn down and cast into the fire. And that's symbolic for us too. If we're not doing good works, we're not, you know, doing the right thing, we're going to be cast in that lake of fire, right? Nobody want that. So we have to make sure the fruits of our works is positive. We're doing the right thing. Whereby their fruits ye shall know them. This is the point. Whereby their fruits ye shall know them. So how you know brothers is living in, according to what the commandments say? The chief commandment is to love the Most High with all your heart, mind, and soul, and then love your brother like you love yourself. That's the chief of the commandments. So if you following that, then the fruits that you bear should be nothing but positive things, right? But if you don't love your brother and you're doing wicked things, then what's the point? You're going to bear forth wicked fruit. So first fruits, it's a physical thing, right? But we know we in captivity. We know that we can't keep it the way to the letter of the law, like we first started talking about, but we do what we can. We do what we can to keep first fruits. So with that being said, I just want to switch a little bit gears right now into the calendar, right? We're just touching on the calendar and so on and so forth. But brothers and sisters, as you know, and every Israelite should know, right? There's different renditions of the calendar that we have right now. Now, I'm not going to get all into the different calendars because if I do, we'll be here for another 2 hours. So see fit to break it down into like maybe 3 classes, and this will be the first one. The history of the current calendar system, as we know, brothers and sisters, you do know that ancient timekeeping, all the way up to what we know, what we're in right now is the Gregorian calendar. What we're going to touch on in the upcoming classes, the origins of measuring time and biblical and ancient calendars, and Roman calendars. Everybody should know the difference between the Julian and the Gregorian system, right? All right, let's touch on that real quick. Difference between Julian and Gregorian calendar, right? Because you hear people say, well, what is the Julian calendar? Well, let's get into it real quick. Let's get into it. Make sure I'm sharing my screen. All right. Julian calendar, real quick. And we ain't gonna spend too much time on this. Based off this weirdo right here, Julius Caesar. All right. The Julian calendar is a solar calendar of 365 days in every year, with an additional leap year every fourth year, without exception. The Julian calendar is still used as a religious calendar in parts of the Eastern Orthodox Church and in parts of Oriental Orthodoxy, as well as the Berber calendar. That's another calendar that we need to get into also. For a quick calculation, between 1901 and 2099, the much more common Gregorian dates equals the Julian date plus 13 days. For instance, Julian 1 January falls on Gregorian 14th January. So Esau got all these calendars. We don't even know what time we in, right? We saying we all agree upon that we're in 2026, but are we in 2026? We don't know. This calendar over here, it changes at a whim. You know why? Because they have something known as a drift. A drift is where they keep adding days so things could line up, right? So this Julian calendar is off. Let's read on. The Julian calendar was proposed in 46 BC and takes its name from Julius Caesar as a reform of the earlier Roman calendar, which was largely a lunisolar one, which took effect on January the 1st. Now, how the hell we following the calendar what came about 46 BC? Shouldn't we be following the calendar since Genesis 1? Since the Lord created the heavens and the earth and the sun and the moon to be for signs and seasons, that's the calendar we should be following, not this calendar right here. So that's strike one that we're following this weirdo, right? Let's not get into Pope Gregory. We don't want to touch on him. Now we know about the Julian calendar. It was created around 46 BC. Now, real quick, we're gonna touch on the Gregorian calendar. All right. The Gregorian calendar is a calendar used in most parts of the world. It went into effect October 1852. That's only what, 500 years ago? No, not even 400 and change. Following the papal bull Inter Gravissimus issued by Pope Gregory. I'm not following no calendar made by no man, bro. I'm sorry. But we are forced into it, right? Meaning that businesses, they follow the Gregorian calendar. Governments follow the Gregorian calendar. Us being servants, or us being not servants, but us being slaves or in captivity, they force us to follow this for our daily lives. But we don't follow this in our spiritual lives. We follow the calendar that the Lord set forth from Genesis. This is just something for us to follow. Make sure you're doing this. You know, on your job, Esau say you gotta submit this paperwork by such and such time, and da 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 da. You gotta do your taxes by April 15th, or you get a penalty. It's all based on the Gregorian calendar, right? 1852, following the papal bull Inter Gravissimus issued by Pope Gregory VIII, which introduced it as a modification of and replacement for the Julian calendar. The principal change was to space leap years slightly differently to make the average calendar year 365. 365.2425 days long, rather than the Julian calendar's 365.25 days, thus more closely approximating the 365.2422 day tropical or solar year that is determined by the Earth's revolution around the sun. First of all, the Earth doesn't move around the sun. The sun goes around the Earth. So that's where this is all false anyway, right? So it shows you that this is all pagan worship. All this Julian and Gregorian calendar is pagan. You understand what I'm saying? And this is what we're worshiping. I'm making sure y'all can see the screen. Okay, con. The next class we're gonna do is go into earliest ancient calendars, right? Babylonian calendar. Just gonna touch on it briefly. We're not gonna get deep into it, right? Months and new moons and things of that nature, right? Agricultural feasts. How the months got their names, like Nisan, Sivan, Tishri, and all of that. Going to touch on 10-month calendar and how it expanded to 12 months. How the months were named after Roman gods. We already know that. Mars and Jupiter and all that foolishness, man. All right. So I just wanted brothers and sisters to take away this from the class, that there are multiple calendars out there. All right. We need to search for the truth as was given to us through scriptures. That's what we need to search for. Right? And line up the calendars with the scriptures. That's what we need to do. So we can't be fooled by Babylonian calendars and papal calendars and so on and so forth. Right? Can't do that. Right? We got to go to the original calendar that the Lord gave us. And that's how we know. Because remember now, from in Genesis 1, this is so basic. In the beginning, God creates the heaven and the earth. It was void. It was nothing, right? Genesis 1:3, and God said, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw the light, and it was good. And God divided the light from darkness. And God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And the evening and the morning were the first day. The sun and the moon ain't even here yet. But there was light and there was darkness, and God separated it. And that's the first day. So this is the calendar we're going off of. Right? So I just wanted to bring that out. Let's get the book of Psalms real quick. Let's get the book of Psalms, chapter 90 and verse 12. It says, so teach us to number our days that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. Our heart, meaning our mind, should be towards wisdom so we could honor the Lord, right? By keeping the feast in the right time, as right as possible, in the right season, I should say. That's what we need to do. And with wisdom is not something that comes overnight. It's constant searching and constant counsel and research and things of that nature, right? So the world right now is following after the beast system, the Roman calendar, so on and so forth, and we got to take ourselves out of it, right? What we're supposed to do is Judges 5:11. I brought that out. I'll bring it one more time. The book of Judges, chapter 5, verse 11. They that are delivered from the noise of archers in the places of drawing water, there shall they rehearse the righteous acts of the Lord, even the righteous acts toward the inhabitants of his villages in Israel. Then shall the people of the Lord go down to the gates. Point being, rehearse, practice. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to practice and do the right thing, brothers and sisters. That's all it boils down to. Practice and doing the right thing. Now, we don't know who's perfect, meaning that we don't know whose calendar and dates are perfect and right according to the Most High in Christ. Our calculation of observing the Feast of First Fruits on the 24th, we might be wrong. And we have to position ourselves to be humble. If the Lord show us in the spirit that, nah, this ain't right. When Yahushua come back, what are you going to do? No, Lord, see, we started counting. No. You got to humble yourself. That's why the takeaway from this class is that we are not to get into contention with our brothers if our brother has the 17th or the 31st, or so on and so forth. That's the whole point of this class, right? So now I already laid out what I'm going to do for the next class, dealing with the other calendars, right? I'm going to close out with this last scripture. Read this at camp all the time. This is the book of Romans, chapter 13, verse 11, right? It says, and that knowing the time, yeah, you're supposed to know the time. You know, Jake used to have a slang back in the days, back in the 90s. Yo, boy, you know what time it is? Jake used to say that all the time, right? You don't know what time it is. That's hip talk. That's slang, right? Romans 13:11. And that knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep. Doesn't matter if you keep Passover this day or that day. That's one type of time. This is another type of time, spiritual time to awake out of sleep. For now is our salvation nearer than when we believe. Mashiach is closer than when we believe, right? All the prophecies is falling into place. Everything. The wars and rumors of wars, all that is taking place right now. So we know our salvation is nearer, right? The night is far spent. Night synonymous with darkness, right? The day is at hand. Let us therefore cast off the works of darkness and let us put on the armor of light. Let us walk honestly as in the day, not in riot and in drunkenness, not in chambering and wantonness, not in strife and envy, but put ye on the Lord Hamashiach Yahushua and make no provision for the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof. This is where we got to be in the right spirit to observe the Feast of First Fruits, man. Walk honestly, right? That's something that we have to stay in. Walk honestly as in the day, in the light. No distress, no stress, no doctrines beefing with one another. Right. So with that, I hope brothers was edified, and sisters, this is part 1 of the lesson. I will do a part 2 for next week on Thursdays. Let me stop sharing my screen. Okay. And any comments, let me know. All right. Stop sharing. All right. All praises. All right. All praises to the Most High. Khan. Hey, I pray everybody have a blessed First Fruits this Sunday. Bring what you can. Right. Bring what you can. Preferably a dish that you make, and gather in the spirit of love. Gather in the spirit of love and brotherhood. All right. Doesn't matter who got the right date, who got the wrong date. That's okay. We gather in the spirit of love and we pray the Most High blessings. All right. God. All right. I love y'all. I love everybody, man. Sincere love, right? Y'all have a blessed night. And tomorrow, LOI Detroit, they'll have the Shabbat class, the first half, and then Priest will be back. I believe he will have a Sabbath class. If not, he'll notify us, right? And then Sunday's First Fruits. Love y'all. Most God bless y'all. Shalom.